Spokeo is stilling with spasms. There are motes of dust and debris flying in the beams of light around him, inside the circular brick chamber. He slowly turns to cast an odd face at Lake. The companions watch a gruesome sight. From the space at the center of his brow there extends a long whip-like antenna that grows outward and up like a plant stalk that quickly fabricates new sections before the last. The thing waves slightly, and at the tip, a split occurs and it forks into two smaller, thinner wires. They aim at Lake, and there can be seen something like delicate spores of dust or fine matter ejecting from the space between the two wires. The motes rapidly build into a small cloud that advances toward the companions, and before they can make a move, the damage is done. Lake makes a choking, gagging sound as she clutches at her throat. Her skin looks pale and grainy. Her knees buckle. She drops to her knees. Her eyes swirl and seek help from her friends. A yelp escapes her mouth. She appears to be trying to use her hands to remove something from her throat, from her mouth. The scene is horrifying. Ten goes before her and kneels. He says in his growl, "Cade, you and Jug have to take him. Lake needs to get distance from the man. I will take her down the way, out into the fresh air. We have to try to kill him here if we can." Ten gathers Lake in his arms and carries her sidewise, in his arms, out of the shadowed hall, to where the brick walls are fallen and open to the early sun, and some grass at the top of the stone palisade. Once outside, Ten places Lake in the grass, and he looks her over carefully as she continues to struggle for breath, and her eyes are still bulging and spinning. Ten thinks a moment, and tears a strip of long material from Lake's cloak. He ties it around her eyes and ears. He says in a commanding voice, "Lake! Breathe! Breathe, damn it!" And he slaps her once upon her cheek, knocking her sideways, though he catches her up and straightens her again. She is bowed over with her hands on the ground and the blindfold still tied. Finally there is an uneven breath and another. She spits into the grass and reaches up with a shaking hand. Ten touches her hand and takes the blindfold off for her. When she looks at him with her normal chestnut brown eyes and she thanks him, Ten smiles briefly and draws a shaky breath of relief of his own. Back in the circular hall, Spokeo has fully shaken off Lake's enchantment. He has a look of an erect viper, slowly advancing, keeping his adversaries in his sights, back and forth, back and forth. He is a creature of wily ways and speech that entrances and enraptures. As he comes closer, Jughand and Decatur retreat slightly, their hands holding their weapons and sweat rolling down face and back. Spokeo's voice comes in the echoes of the hall like two different people, talking from a different direction each. "Hova's own. Grandmother is chosen, righteous and valiant, stepping between a monster and his claim. Where is it? The blackened box. Where is it?" Decatur takes a length of yew wood in his left hand from a leather sling on his belt. His beloved gift. His link to his known magics. He keeps Spokeo in view as he speaks a string of practiced words. He goes inward into the center of his mind for an instant, and imagines with all his faith and will a jet-black hound of shadow, the shadow of Woodson, come to appear at his calling, where he wishes, and with it, Woodson himself, the beloved friend. Spokeo continues coming on, slowly, assuredly, but now with a curiosity. What exactly is the woodsman doing? He is no mage. 10 feet behind Spokeo there comes loping, one from the left and one from the right, Woodson in his black shadow. Woodson says, "Ranger!" Spokeo turns to see both hounds bearing down on him. The moment of broken concentration is enough to spur Jughand to action. He is tall, wiry, and quick, his arcane firearm in hand, outstretched. He projects a spell he knows like his own name through the enchanted relic, as electricity through a conduit, lashing outward. Ice crystals, swirling within a white-blue vortex, is blasted from the muzzle of the iron and wood relic in Jughand's grasp. Spokeo takes frigid, binding, magical blasting at his right side. His movement is momentarily slowed, especially on the right side. His draping black wings encrusted white. The screeching crackle of breaking magic ice is heard as his wings bend and flex against the assault. His face is transformed as anger and bestial rage angle the heavy brows, crease the long nose bridge, gnash the teeth, and roar the curse of hatred. He deals with the hounds first, though Jughand has just baited the line for Spokeo's animosity. His left hand forms a shape and movement of a W with 3 fingers held upwards, which he thrusts straight up, like a gesture of the vulgar meaning from the old world. Woodson and the Black Shadow form are halted in their advance at the barrel of the W sign. Then it is as if they are impaled on invisible stakes and raised high. Both hounds hang in a marionette display, 6 feet behind Spokeo, who casts his magical assault. His spells are mounting in intensity, speed, and difficulty. Jughand has seen perhaps 5 gifted mages in Easterly, who he deems worthy of his fear and awe. Spokeo seems to perform well against a group of casters, Lake, Decatur, and himself, each possessing spellcasting ability and some level of talent each. He considers himself a gifted mage, who enjoys the thrill and challenge of sudden combat or a duel of sorts. Facing down this man, who has built such a reputation of fear, mystery, curiosity, Jughand wonders, while he watches his freezing blast essentially ignored, if he is a match for this accumulation of physical, mental, liminal phenomena. Spokeo turns from the mounted hounds behind him. He is advancing forward out of the circular chamber and closer to the narrowing hall where Decatur and Jughand are squared in their stances of defense, awaiting what will come next.
Your river of protection, your champion who slips from the well, your Bruja hag mother, her arrangements and plans, her manipulations among her own. You will sleep in it and think of it. Why do you serve this little sliver of woods? It was easy enough to plant a seed inside the mind of one of your men, the dreamer, the maker of paracosm and liminal fields inside the blur theory.
As he speaks, Decatur and Jughand, against their better judgment and will, are watching the knitted antennae that spike out of his crinkled brow as they weave to and fro, making a sickly noise and spawning motes of dust that look like sparks of glass and soot, and the menacing dust approaches. Farther into the hall he comes, step by step, upon the 4 limbs. Skidaclump, skidaclump, skidaclact, scuff. Their heads droop and Decatur raises a hand to slap himself hard across the face. Jug, don't look. He's putting us to sleep. Don't breathe. Don't breathe. Ah, shit. And he slumps down by degrees to the mosaic tiles upon the hall floor. Jughand lets his head fall and release. He tried to do as his friend advised, but the giving in felt so nice. Listen. Spokeo strides over them both and goes in search of the other 2. But instead he turns, bends to look among the possessions and arms of the fallen edible men. Jughand's arcane spell cannon is clutched in his sleeping fingers. This is claimed by Spokeo, as well as Decatur's Yukane. In the sun, out in the front yard before the crooked brick wall, he can see the two others. The bard woman whose itchy song made his stomach and his mind reel. The strange stony man who bears the blue skull. He was familiar, and Spokeo desired greatly to be away from him. He brought his wings in close to his body. He crouched somewhat to make himself smaller. He shrunk into the shadow and watched them a moment longer. There was a sadness that came over him then, and he nearly cried. The emotion swelling in his heart brought out an intense anger in himself, and he flung his wings out, bolted up the broken steps at the center of the rotunda, and threw himself up and out over the raw edge of the stone palisade. Those who were still down in the township watched his ascent up and away, climbing into the glare of the morning sun, and dipping again with a folding and a tilt of the black velvet wings, taking him down and gliding over the treetops to the west of the township.